Good morning, DIY friends. Today's Fix-It adventure takes me out to the driveway to my 2007 Chevrolet Suburban. I'm going to be fixing the backup camera that has gotten cloudy and is really hard to see. Funny thing, I didn't realize it until it stopped working properly, but backup camera is one of those things you really get used to and you really depend on and enjoy using and need it for safety reasons, and you don't realize that until it's gone. And parking a big beast like this Chevrolet Suburban can be difficult. Just in the last week I had to parallel park in a very tight spot and didn't realize how much I depend on that thing. So we're going to get a part in there, we're going to fix it today, and I'll take you along for the way and show you how to do it in case maybe you have this age or type of Suburban or Tahoe or GMC vehicle. So hang in there and we'll show you how to tear it apart. So here's what it looks like when I put my truck in reverse. It's gotten to the point where it's just totally cloudy now. It really looks like it's I'm in a snowstorm here. It used to be just a bad picture and then it got progressively worse to now it's just pretty much whited out and it is of no value at all. Alright folks, so here's where the backup camera lives on my truck, as you'd expect, in the back, but it's under this little applique here that we're going to have to take this off to be able to access where the camera is. If you can see the lens, I don't know if this camera is going to pick it up, but the lens has gotten foggy on the inside and that's what's causing my problem. And if there was a way to pop this lens out and clean it, I certainly would, but it's pretty much factory sealed and you're going to destroy the camera if you try to get in there. So we're going to take this thing apart and get in there. So the best thing I can tell so far, after doing a little research, is we're going to need to take this whole bottom trim panel off to be able to access the camera. And as best I can tell, there's a T30 torque screw here in the handle that you grab onto. Another T30 up in here where this strap handle is. So those two are going to have to come out. And then also connected to this trim piece is right here under the glass. There's these two little push pins right here that you're going to have to take out to release this panel because we are going to have to remove it to get back there. So we're going to try working on those things first and see how we do. Okay, so since we're right here, I'm going to start with these two push pins first. I'll admit to you, I experimented a little bit before I started rolling the video because I want to show you what to do, and I pushed this one in a little too far and it fell down inside the tailgate. So I'm going to have to retrieve that once we get this panel off. It's an easy thing to fix, but the way you take these off is you push this centerpiece in and don't go too far as I did. Just pop it a little bit so it just goes in like that, and then you can take your screwdriver or whatever right underneath this and just gently lift it out. And it's got a little piece in here that there it is, that you're going to want to hang on to. So that this little thing is the part that I'm going to have to retrieve once I get inside that tailgate. Shouldn't be a problem though to put it back. So here's our first Torx bit coming out. The size is indeed a T30. So just screw that out, you get the idea. That has got one long thread on it for what it is. And then we'll get the T30 on the strap handle here, get that next. There she comes. All right, and there goes that one. All right, then this trim piece should just pop out. I'm going to use a little body panel tool that you can get at Harbor Freight Tools for like about $7 or $8, cheap kit, but you can use a screwdriver if you want. Just be careful and try not to scratch up your plastic. There she goes. All right, now let's pop out this handle piece here. There it goes. Just got some little clips on there that pop right out. Okay, so from what I can tell, this panel is now free from any kind of screws and mechanical hole fasteners, but we're gonna have to pop it loose now. And really what holds this thing is a series of push clips that are gonna be all the way around the edges of the panel. And there's probably gonna be a few here in the middle too, so we're just gonna have to be careful popping it off. Again, I'm gonna use a body panel tool that I have. They're really just a cheap plastic thing. You can get them at Harbor Freight, but I've found they're just super helpful to have. But again, you can just use a screwdriver if you want. Just be careful not to scratch up your paint. Areas like this where the metal and the plastic meet, maybe put a little shop rag around the edge of your screwdriver where you're prying it, then you won't chip your paint. So let's give it a try and see how we can do. If you pull down and look inside, you can kind of see where some of them are. Oh yeah, there's more in the middle too. I'll have to get that later. I think I'm gonna try to get my hand up in here now for those middle. There's some middle fasteners here. There we go. Getting pretty close. This needs to be loosened up a little bit because this big panel is underneath the smaller one, so I'm going to pop it loose a little bit. And I think we're just about there. Looks like it's going to lift off from the top now. Let's check that out. So it's hooked over this little window latch here. I think I need to release it off of this. I think that might have been it. All right, now that I've let it down all the way, I can see there's a wire I've got to disconnect for the automatic trunk opener, and the clip looks like that. So let's try and figure out how we get this thing off. Okay, so it may be a little hard to see, but here's what the clip looks like behind there, and you've got to pop off the edge of this this green clip to allow the plug to come free. And I'm going to try to do it with one hand, so forgive me if it takes a little longer, but this is kind of difficult and awkward here. So we're just going to pry it right here on this green side clip like this. Pry it out. Oh, and there it goes. I got lucky. So there you go. That's how you do it. All right, now that we've got that plug disconnected, let's open it up and see what we can do here. All right, we got it. There you go. One panel removed. And here's what the back of that panel looks like, in case you're wondering. Just a series of plastic clips that you just need to just gently pull up on, and they'll let go. Sometimes they hang on a little tight and it seems like you're going to break it, but be careful. You won't. Just reach your hand in there or use a tool, and you'll be able to get them. Okay, so the rear view camera is mounted in this rear applique on the back of the tailgate, and it's held on by a series of 4 bolts, or nuts actually. There's posts in it. It's going to be one here, one here, one here, and one here. And we can flip up on the underside. And the good news is, let's see if you can see in there. Kind of sketchy. Okay. Good news is that there are these really convenient holes that they've cut in the metal right here, so you can get to the nuts on one. There's 2, and we can see it. There's 3. So that's great. You can get right on them. Those are 10mm nuts. The bad news is one of the nuts is right here behind the rear window release, and we're going to have to get our hand up in there. There's a big enough hole right here where I can reach in there with a combination wrench and get it on that nut. So we'll deal with that booger when we get to it. That's going to be the worst one. Actually, no, I think I'll just do that first since it's the worst one. Sometimes when you're working on things, it's better to do the worst things first while you still got a little more energy, because when you get tired and frustrated, you start breaking things. So I'm going to go after that first. And the tool that I'm going to use is just a combination wrench. But what's cool about this one is it's got a little ratchet on the end here. And when you have to get into tight spaces and just work on things, you don't have to constantly readjust it back on off and on the nut, so you can use that ratchet to spin it off. So I'm going to give that a try. But if you don't have that, you can still use a wrench and get up there and do it yourself. So let's give it a go. That is in a really tight spot, but you can get to it. I've got one hand going through here and one hand going through here, and you just make it. Here she comes. I can't get the camera in there, so you're just going to have to trust me that I'm getting it. Just be patient and keep wrenching. Whew. Finally got this little booger. Here's what it looks like. And the best I can tell, the factory has put some kind of Loctite or thread sealant on there, and this thing is going to fight all the way out to the last thread. So just fair warning, be patient, but you can get it. All right, let's go after the remaining 3 nuts that we can get with our ratchet. Again, it's a 10mm socket. All right, because the threads were so long on those last couple of studs, I'm going to have to change to a deeper socket because this one was bottoming out on the bolt when I was trying to get it off. So you don't have a deep socket, you're just going to have to go up in there through the holes with a wrench. You can get to them if you have to, but I'm going to go with this. Last one. And there's our last nut that's come off the studs that hold that applique in. let's see if we can get it out and take a look at it now. Okay, so after a little persuasion, I did get the applique off. Here's the posts for the 4 nuts we had to take off. One there, one there. That was the one that was stuck. No, that was the one that was behind the wiper motor. Then there's that, then there's that. There's also these little clips on here that seems to, I had to kind of wiggle this thing from side to side. I got the 4 posts to release, but it wasn't coming off. So I had to kind of slide it one way to get off of that clip, and then slide it the other way to get off of that clip. As you can see, there's a little slot on the end there, on that one there, and that there. So you can't just pull it straight up. You got to kind of wiggle it. You just wiggle it back and forth and you can get it off. And now we can see the back of our camera. That is our patient right there. It's just got 2 little Phillips screws, and I should be able to pull that thing right out. It's got one little connector right there that we'll unplug, and we can get to the heart of the matter and replace that backup camera. Okay, so there's 2 little Phillips screws holding the actual camera right here. I'm going to get those out first. Alright, the screws about like that. It's like there's a little piece here that goes behind the camera and holds it in, just kind of keeps it in place, so that'll come out as well. And then, with any luck, I can just slide this camera out now. Okay, there's the camera's free. Now let's get to that connector. Alright, so here's the connector we're going to have to take off, and if you look closely inside there, I'll try to do the best I can with this camera. There's a little lip here. You're just going to have to pry this down to release the connector. You pry this down, and then you'll be able to grab that plug and pull it out. I'm afraid I can't do this with only one hand, so there's your explanation. That's the best I can give you. So here's the old and new cameras side by side for a comparison. You can see the camera on the left, which is obviously the old one, has a white dot in the middle that's in the lens. That's not a reflection or a glare. That's actually inside the lens and is the reason why we didn't have a picture in the first place, the reason for our video today. So now we're going to take this new camera, basically do what we just did in reverse, and put it back in and hope for the best. Hang on. Okay, so the camera will just drop back down into the hole where it came from. Just kind of feed it in there and push it down. One thing to note, you don't want your picture to be cockeyed or screwy. I'm not sure if you can put this camera in the wrong way, but the wire is pointing off to your left at the 9 o'clock position when you put that camera back in. Once you get the camera back down in the hole, this little spacer's got to go back in. It's basically like a little holder that keeps the camera from wiggling around in there. So it's going to go underneath these 2 tabs, and then it grabs the corner of the camera right there. And then you can put your 2 screws back in. That should hold it in place. All right. The old camera used to have a clip on it that punched in here. This one does not, and the other one was not reusable. So I'm just gonna have to send it just like it is. Put these back together, and she's pretty much ready to go. Camera's in, 2 bolts. Snap that back in. Just got to remount this applique now. All right. Let's get this thing lined up, go back into service. Yeah, let's see if I can wiggle those tabs back on the ends. They were kind of funny. You know what? I wonder if I can just pop those off and push them back on. Let's give that a try. All right, so looks like I'm going to have to use my pry tool to get those. Let's give this one a try. I actually got the one on the other side already when you weren't looking. There we go. It just popped out. It's going to be really hard to get this thing reset with these sliding clips. They each slide towards the same direction, so you can't get one and then the other. So I'm going to have to pop these off and reinstall them here onto the applique, and then these can just punch back in when we put the screws in. All right, take 3 or whatever it is now. So I've got the 2 clips in on both of the ends, and we'll just line up our studs. Hopefully we can just punch this thing in here and see if it lines up. All right, the studs are all started. There's one, there's the other. Looks good, I'm gonna send it, here we go. All right. Nice, now what we gotta do is tighten up those nuts on the inside and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so here's a thought. Before we put all that back together, let's test out the camera. It's plugged in and it should work now. Before I get all that put together, I'm gonna make sure this camera works. Maybe it's a bad one, who knows, but let's give it a try before we commit to putting that all back together, see if it works. So here we go, I'm gonna spin you around. All right, come on baby, here we go. We're going into reverse. Woo, love it. Oh my gosh, you can actually see. That's fantastic. I'm going to enjoy having my camera back. Let's get out back and put it all back together now. All right, we're just going to go in reverse order and start putting the nuts back on and get at it. Let's start with this one first. Gotcha. They did cut out these nice round holes right behind the studs. And again, with the exception of, for whatever reason, this one right here that we're going to have to get a wrench up into. That's going to be a booger. That was a booger getting out. It's going to be even worse getting it back in. Well, maybe not. We broke the Loctite on those threads, so maybe we can get it better now. Still just a long way to go with the combination wrench. You know what I think I'm going to do? Getting it out, I had a little problem with clearance issues. It would have been nice to push that stud in just a little bit to make some more room, because that stud is about that close to the metal, and a little extra space would probably be good helping to get it back in. So I'm going to leave these three just a little bit loose. Give myself literally a little wiggle room to get that last nut back on there. All right, wish me luck. The engineer who thought this up is having a good laugh right now if you see in this video. Because if you don't do this, you got to take this whole wiper motor and everything latch assembly out, and it is something that you just don't want to have to do. That's a lot of work. Once I can get this started, I'll be okay. I think getting it started is going to be the hardest part. And actually, there's two sheet metal screws coming right through here holding the license plate on. You know what? I think I'm going to take those off because that's just going to shred up my skin. You know, the screws hold your plate on, they come right through. I'm going to take them out because they're right in the zone there. All right, so I don't know if you can see it, but that was right sticking out where I need to work. And you may not know me, but you'll soon find out that my skin and sharp objects have a way of finding each other very easily. So I'm going to avoid that, take the license plate screws out, and just give myself a little room in there. All right, I got it started. Thank you, Lord. This is going to be easy now. It's actually going on pretty good, a lot easier than it came off. So the Loctite did break loose, and it's letting me just spin it freely all the way down. Oh, that's just fantastic. That's going to make life a lot easier. All right, get my ratcheting open end wrench on there and cinch it down. There she goes. All right, that was actually not too bad. That's it, done. Good old ratchet wrench with the box end. All right, let's tighten up those last 3 screws, and our applique will be refastened and ready. There it is. These bolts are hanging on plastic on the back side, so again, not too cute with it. And last but not least. All right, everybody's back in. Hook this up last. Okay, let's see if we can get this trim panel deck fitted up on here and get it going. Okay, let's reinstall the panel. I'm going to figure this out with you as we go. See what happens. I'm going to start by at least hooking this top section back up over this to get it started. So let's try and do that. Okay, so this thing fits up underneath these side pieces here. See where the whole flat is there. My clip just popped off. Let's put it back in. These little white clips right here, they come off. You can just slide them right back on. They just slide in there. This one popped out. Put it back in. Okay. I think what I'm going to do now is get this wire connected. Well, I got a little working right here. Okay, she's in. Thankfully, I need a headache. So I got 2 clips here that push in this way, and then everything else comes straight down. So I think I'm going to have to get this up sort of in place and get that clip lined up right there. There's a slot that it goes in. Okay, it's basically there. I'm not going to drive it home yet, but it's going to get everything else lined up, see how she looks. Okay, let's start punching them home. Get into the hole. That's your home, don't you know? Little Happy Gilmore. That's really all there is to fastening this thing back on. They just pop back in. Alright, let's get to our 2 little plastic clip frames up here next. Okay, remember our 2 little plastic clips that came out of here? I was able to locate the other half of this piece that I pushed too far through. Basically, to put them back in place, what you're going to do is push them back. Whoops, there it goes again. All right, these are squirrely little guys. You're basically going to not put it all the way through like that. You'll open up your hole like that and just push this until it's flush. And that's all there is to it. That locks it in. And just expect these little center pieces are going to go flying. This one in, push it flush, and that's it. That's all there is to that. Okay, so the last thing we've got left to do is put in our 2 remaining trim pieces up in this panel. Let's get to that. This one just pops right in. Really nothing to it. Give it a little whack. T30 Torx bolt, T30 bit. Snug but not crazy. Grab handle. It has a little tab right there that locks in here. You're just going to give it a gentle bump. That's all there is to this. That's it. It's in. And I guess it'd be helpful if I put the back part in first. There we go. All right. That's it. And there you have it. She's in and ready for business. All right, guys, so that's a wrap for today's project. I just want to say that sometimes when I'm working on my cars, half the trouble can be getting on the internet and finding what the right part number is. So I just want to share that with you now. For my 2007, 2008 series Chevy or GMC vehicles, Suburbans, Tahoes, should all be the same. And I think those 2 years are unique for backup cameras as I research, so be careful. But I just want to share the part number for this backup camera was the GM number is 15173619. Check that out and you'll be able to fix yours as well. Just be careful to get the right part. And once again, I just want to encourage you guys. I've got no special skills here. I'm just a guy who likes to fix things around the house. Been doing it for a lot of years. And I've been blessed by the things I've been able to find online for other people that took the time to share their experiences and the extra effort of talking in front of a camera, which is totally awkward and out of character for me. I really kind of strange doing this, but I feel compelled to share and give back to some of you folks because there are others that are where I was maybe a few years ago and maybe intimidated to take on a project. So I just want to encourage you guys today. This job would have cost me $500 to $700 at a dealership. I went onto eBay. I got the part for a little bit over $100. I did it myself in about an hour this morning and shared it with you guys. So just want to encourage you. People these days are not fixing things anymore. They write checks and they throw things away. There's a lot of things that can be fixed. So the little bit of effort, not a lot of special skills, just get in there, look at things, just think logically about how things might come apart, but don't be afraid. Everything went together and it can certainly come apart. If there's bolts and screws and clips, you can find a way to get them off, and I would encourage you to give it a try. So that's our project for today. Until next time, keep wrenching.